Hello, dear viewers. This is not so much a walk to work with Whittaker. This is more I'm at work waiting for a file to upload. But I've noticed a lot of people complaining about the Gallifrey reveal in Spyfall Part 2. And particularly, not so much that Gallifrey's been destroyed, but a lot of people saying that Chris Chibnall puts Gallifrey in a bubble where Stephen Moffat didn't have it in a bubble, and how does that work? And here's the thing, right? When I first saw Hellbent, that is the second one, when I first saw Hellbent, I didn't get the idea that Gallifrey was still in a bubble. I got the idea that it was at the end of the universe. At the end of the story, the Doctor does say to Ashilda/me, we're sitting here in a reality bubble at the end of the universe. But at that time, I rationalised it as the reality bubble is just at that point in time. Thing is, Chris Chibnall comes along now and says that Gallifrey is in a bubble universe. And that got me thinking. Now, first of all, if we were being really pedantic about it, we could say, well, Chris Chibnall misunderstood that scene in Hellbent. But I'm more tempted to think that that scene is ambiguous enough that you can interpret it either way. So you can interpret it that Gallifrey was no longer in a bubble, or you could interpret it in the way that Gallifrey was always sitting in this bubble universe towards the end of the universe. Bubble universe in terms of universal geography, towards the end of the universe in terms of timescale. And there could actually be evidence for this. So in Death in Heaven, right? Missy says to the Doctor, have you found Gallifrey? Have you tried looking where it was? And at the end of the episode, he goes to where it was, and there's nothing there. And of course, he's very angry about that. But I wonder if Missy was telling the truth, and if Gallifrey is there, but is hidden in this bubble universe. Bubble universes in science fiction and in science theory are, if you like, micro-universes attached to our own. For anyone who's seen Star Trek The Next Generation, the episode Remember Me, when Dr. Beverly Crusher gets trapped in a collapsing micro-universe, that is kind of the thing I'm imagining, something which takes up the same physical space in our universe, but is slightly separate from it. In Doctor Who, we've seen that sort of thing before in The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, where the various planets that Davros and the Daleks take are hidden a few seconds forward in time. We have hyperspace in Stones of Blood, which doesn't act like any other hyperspace that's ever mentioned in Doctor Who, by the way. It's more like this bubble universe idea, where it's a different realm. It's more like hyperspace in Babylon 5, to be honest with you. But the thing is, if Chris Chibnall has reinterpreted that Gallifrey was in a bubble this whole time, I don't have a problem with that. We've also got the fact that in Hellbent, the Sisterhood of Khan theoretically being a neighbouring planet to Gallifrey, that's what we've always been led to believe since the 70s, they're still pretty easily able to get to Gallifrey. So that ties in with the idea that Gallifrey is near its previous location. It's just very, very slightly out of phase with our universe. So, as I see it, there's nothing to explicitly contradict Chris Chibnall's idea that Gallifrey remained in a micro-universe, a pocket universe, a bubble universe, attached to our own, and sort of firmly rooted at a certain point in space and time towards the end of the universe, but only accessible to Time Lords, essentially, or the Sisterhood of Khan. And there's always been a bit of ambiguity as to the relationship between Time Lords and the Sisterhood. Equally, I think it's perfectly possible to say that Gallifrey wasn't in a bubble at the end of Hellbent, before the Doctor goes into the very, very far future and the very, very end of the universe, but something could have put it in a bubble after that. What if the Master put it in a bubble just to destroy it? You know, kind of like breaking a glass and sweeping it under the rug. Personally, I prefer to believe that Chris Chibnall just said what works for my story. And that's something that writers have always done with Gallifrey. if we look back at the initial reception for The Deadly Assassin, quite famously in Celestial Toy Room, a reviewer wrote, and I can never remember, and I'm really sorry if you're watching, I can never remember if it's Jean-Vincent Rusky or Jean-Marc Lofficier, Jean-Marc Lofficier, but basically wrote that The Deadly Assassin destroyed the mystique of the Time Lords as it was set up in the War Games, and basically every new showrunner or producer who comes to the show comes with a different idea of what Gallifrey is. So for Derek Sherwin, Gallifrey was this planet of gods who could dissolve you with a single thought. For Barry Letts, Gallifrey were galactic ticket inspectors, as the Doctor describes them. For Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes, they were this stuffy, old, bland kind of House of Lords people out of touch. For John Nathan Turner, they were this corrupt entity, and made corrupt by their centuries of non-interference and an attitude that all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. Russell T Davies, of course, basically does away with them, but he keeps the sort of corruption element, as does Stephen Moffat. But Chris Chibnall has reinterpreted it again. There are things to complain about in this episode, but I really don't think that's one of them. We just kind of have to go, okay, Gallifrey's in a bubble again now, that's fine. And as for Gallifrey being destroyed, look, Gallifrey's generally more interesting when it's been destroyed anyway. That being said, look, when Moffat brought Gallifrey back, I was hoping for some more stories on Gallifrey. Even though I say Gallifrey's more interesting when it's destroyed, I've got a soft spot for all those classic Gallifrey stories. Even Arc of Infinity, which is terrible. So, could we see more of Gallifrey? Look, I think so. Could it be Jodie Whittaker's big heroic moment? That'd be nice, but also kind of recycled from Matt Smith's big historic moment of rescuing Gallifrey anyway. Could this tie back in with Day of the Doctor and we see Jodie Whittaker flying around Gallifrey there as well? Who knows? Or could Chris Chibnall just leave Gallifrey dead? I have no idea, and I love the idea that this is a series we can now speculate about big ideas, because it's back on telly! Anyway, I'm going to sign off there. Thank you again so much for watching. Do give me a thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, share this video, tell your friends, tell them to look for A Walk to Work with Whittaker or Brandy Bongos on YouTube. It all helps. I will see you for the next episode of A Walk to Work with Whittaker. But until then, thank you so much for watching.